Imagine a small Los Angeles apartment in the mid-70s, not Hollywood luxury, but a simple place buzzing with hope and struggle. That's where Leonardo Wilhelm DiCaprio took his first breath on November 11, 1974. His father, George, was an underground comic book artist and distributor, and his mother, Ermeline, worked as a legal secretary. Money was tight, and the family lived in a rough neighborhood where drugs and violence were part of the background noise. But even in that chaos, there was a boy with big dreams, a boy who would one day change cinema forever. Growing up, Leonardo wasn't the popular kid. He was restless, curious, and often got himself into trouble just to entertain others. "I was always the class clown," he once said in an interview, laughing at the memory. But behind that clownish charm was a deep hunger, a hunger to escape the life he saw around him, to step into worlds far away from the streets he called home. He watched television and movies obsessively, mimicking characters and imagining himself in their shoes. His parents, despite their separation, supported this dream. George introduced him to art and culture, while Ermeline worked extra hours to make sure Leo had every possible chance. Acting was not an easy road. Young Leonardo auditioned for countless commercials and TV roles and faced rejection again and again. Casting agents told him, "You're too energetic. You don't have the right look," and even suggested he change his name to something more marketable like Lenny Williams. But Leonardo refused. He held on to his identity, saying, "No, I'm Leonardo DiCaprio. That's who I am." Finally, after dozens of failed auditions, he landed his first few roles, tiny appearances on TV shows like Parenthood and Growing Pains. He was just a teenager, but every scene was a battle, every line a chance to prove himself. His family cheered him on, but the paychecks were small and irregular. There were moments of doubt, moments where the dream felt too far. But Leonardo had tasted what it felt like to be on set, and he wasn't going to let go. Little did the world know, that skinny, determined kid from East LA was about to become one of the most respected and powerful actors of his generation. The first breakthrough. Every great story has that one moment where everything shifts, where the dream starts turning real. For Leonardo DiCaprio, that moment came in the early 1990s, after years of small TV appearances and endless auditions. He was offered a role that would finally put him in the spotlight. This Boy's Life, 1993. The film starred Robert De Niro, one of the greatest actors of all time, and Leonardo was cast as the troubled son. Imagine being just 18 years old and stepping onto a set with De Niro staring right into your soul. But Leonardo wasn't intimidated. He was ready. He treated every scene like it was a once-in-a-lifetime shot. Director Michael Caton-Jones later said that Leo had an intensity far beyond his years. Audiences saw it too. This wasn't just another kid actor. This was someone who could carry the emotional weight of a whole movie. And then came What's Eating Gilbert Grape, 1993. Leonardo played Arnie, a mentally challenged boy, and gave a performance so raw, so real, that people questioned whether he was actually acting. The Academy noticed and nominated him for an Oscar at just 19 years old. Imagine that, a kid from a broken home, who had been told he didn't have the right look, suddenly standing among Hollywood's elite. But fame didn't come without its challenges. Leonardo faced the pressure of being typecast, of becoming just another pretty face in the industry. He was offered teen heartthrob roles, easy paychecks that would have made him a superstar overnight. But Leonardo wanted more. "I didn't want to become just another actor people screamed for," he said in an interview. "I wanted to be respected." So he started making bold choices. He took roles in The Basketball Diaries and Romeo plus Juliet, where he poured his soul into playing tortured, complex characters. He wasn't afraid to show vulnerability, to break down on screen, to take risks other young actors avoided. Each movie was another step up the mountain, but the climb was only beginning. And then came the decision that would change his life forever. A film that would make him a global icon, for better or worse. Titanic wave. By the mid-90s, Leonardo DiCaprio had proven he was no ordinary actor. But nothing, not even his early Oscar nomination, could have prepared him for what was coming. In 1997, director James Cameron was looking for a young actor to play Jack Dawson in Titanic, a sweeping romance set aboard the doomed ocean liner. Leonardo was hesitant at first. He feared being labeled just a teenage heartthrob. But Cameron saw something in him, a mixture of innocence and passion that could make Jack unforgettable. The filming was grueling. Long hours in freezing water, emotional scenes that pushed him to the edge, and the pressure of a massive production that everyone said would flop. But Leonardo threw himself into the role. He gave Jack Dawson a soul, charming, rebellious, full of life, and when the movie hit theaters, the world fell in love. Overnight, Leonardo DiCaprio became a global phenomenon. Crowds screamed his name. Girls plastered his posters on their walls. And the media nicknamed it Leomania. Titanic became the highest grossing movie of all time back then, winning 11 Oscars and turning its young star into the face of an entire generation. But behind the scenes, Leonardo struggled. Fame came like a tidal wave, and it was overwhelming. "I didn't even know where to go without being recognized," he admitted years later. Paparazzi chased him, tabloids wrote about his every move, and Hollywood wanted him to keep playing the romantic lead forever. But Leonardo refused to be trapped. Instead of cashing in on his newfound fame, he stepped back and chose projects carefully. He worked with legendary director Martin Scorsese in Gangs of New York and later The Aviator. He dove into darker, more challenging roles, proving he wasn't just the pretty boy from Titanic. He wanted to be an actor whose work spoke louder than his celebrity. This was the turning point, the moment Leonardo decided he would not just ride the wave of fame, but use it to shape his destiny. The world had given him its full attention, and now he was going to decide what to do with it. The art of reinvention. Leonardo DiCaprio was no longer just a boy on the bow of the Titanic. He was a man on a mission. After surviving the storm of global fame, he set his eyes on something bigger, building a legacy as one of the greatest actors of his generation. And that meant taking risks, pushing limits, and reinventing himself over and over again. In the early 2000s, Leonardo partnered with Martin Scorsese, a collaboration that would define an era. Their first project together, Gangs of New York 2002, saw Leonardo shed his boyish image and step into the gritty world of revenge and survival. Critics began to notice that this was no accident. Leonardo was deliberately reshaping his career. Then came The Aviator 2004, where he transformed himself into the eccentric billionaire Howard Hughes. It wasn't just acting, it was complete immersion. He studied Hughes' mannerisms, his paranoia, his genius, even his descent into mental illness. The performance earned Leonardo his second Oscar nomination, and audiences began to see him as a true character actor, fearless, complex, willing to explore the darkest corners of the human psyche. But Leonardo wasn't stopping there. With The Departed 2006, he played a cop undercover in the mob, giving a raw, tortured performance that kept viewers on the edge of their seats. And then came Blood Diamond 2006, where he not only mastered a South African accent, but also used the film to shed light on the brutal reality of conflict diamonds. Despite these powerful roles, the Academy still didn't give him the golden statue. Year after year, Leonardo walked the red carpets, heard his name in the nominations, and watched someone else take the award. It became a running joke. When will Leo finally win an Oscar? But behind the humor was a man who refused to let the lack of a trophy define him. Instead of giving up, Leonardo kept choosing projects that mattered, films that entertained, but also made audiences think. He was no longer just chasing fame. He was chasing greatness, and he was getting closer, one performance at a time. The dream within a dream. By the 2010s, Leonardo DiCaprio had become more than an actor. He was a cultural icon, but one who still hadn't tasted Oscar gold. And yet, he refused to let that shadow haunt him. Instead, he dove deeper into the kind of roles that challenged him. That bent reality, that pushed him into new emotional territory. In 2010, Christopher Nolan handed Leonardo one of the most complex roles of his career, Dom Cobb in Inception. It wasn't just another blockbuster, it was a psychological labyrinth, a story about love, grief, and the weight of the past. Leonardo carried the film on his shoulders, playing a man haunted by memories, a man desperate for redemption. Inception was a box office triumph and proved that Leonardo could lead not just dramas, but massive intellectual thrillers that made the world think. Then came The Wolf of Wall Street 2013, Leonardo's most electric performance yet. As Jordan Belfort, he unleashed chaos, greed, charm, and madness all at once. It was a role that demanded total fearlessness. He improvised scenes, crawled across floors, shouted speeches with a feverish energy that made audiences laugh and gasp. It was outrageous, controversial, and brilliant, earning him yet another Oscar nomination. But even with all these critically acclaimed performances, the golden statue still eluded him. For some, that might have been discouraging, but for Leonardo, it was fuel. He knew that greatness wasn't measured by a trophy. It was measured by the work you leave behind. In 2015, Leonardo took on what many would call the most grueling role of his career. Hugh Glass in The Revenant. This wasn't just a movie, it was survival. He shot in freezing conditions, ate raw bison liver on camera, crawled through mud, and battled nature in one of the most physically punishing shoots ever attempted. When the film was released, audiences were stunned by the rawness of his performance. And then, finally, the moment came. At the 2016 Academy Awards, when his name was called as Best Actor, the room erupted in cheers. Leonardo DiCaprio, after decades of struggle, rejection, and perseverance, had finally won his Oscar. It wasn't just a personal victory, it was a cultural event. The world celebrated with him. beyond the golden statue. When Leonardo DiCaprio finally held the golden Oscar in his hand in 2016, the world cheered like it was a victory for all dreamers who never gave up. But Leonardo didn't see it as the end of the journey. He saw it as the beginning of something greater. Standing on that stage, he didn't just thank his peers. He used the moment to speak about climate change, urging the world to protect our planet. Climate change is real. It is happening right now, he said, turning what could have been a personal celebration into a call for action. That speech was no accident. For years, Leonardo had been using his fame for something bigger than himself. Through the Leonardo DiCaprio Foundation, he has donated millions to environmental causes, funded projects to protect endangered species, restore ecosystems, and fight global warming. He has spoken at the United Nations, met with world leaders, and produced powerful documentaries like Before the Flood, making sure his voice was heard where it mattered most. But Leonardo didn't stop making movies. In 2019, he teamed up with Quentin Tarantino for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, playing fading TV star Rick Dalton, a role that let him explore fear, insecurity, and redemption with both humor and heartbreak. The performance earned him yet another Oscar nomination, proving that even after finally winning, Leonardo still wasn't playing it safe. Off-screen, Leonardo has kept his personal life private, rarely giving the media more than they need. He's known for his loyalty to his friends, his love for nature, and his passion for making the world a better place. Despite the fame, he still seems like that kid from East LA who dreamed of something bigger, just now with the power to inspire millions. Leonardo's life teaches us something powerful. Success isn't about one big moment. It's about staying true to yourself, even when the world tries to put you in a box. It's about using your platform to make a difference, refusing to settle, and continuing to grow no matter how high you've climbed. And somewhere out there, a kid is watching one of his movies, feeling that same fire Leonardo once felt, a fire that says, if he can do it, maybe I can too. The legacy of a dreamer. As the curtain falls on Leonardo DiCaprio's story, at least so far, we see more than an actor. We see a boy who grew up in a dangerous neighborhood, who faced rejection, who refused to change his name just to fit in, who fought for respect when the world only wanted him to be a poster boy. We see a man who turned every no into fuel, every setback into a lesson, every victory into a platform to speak for something greater. Leonardo's journey is a reminder that dreams are not straight roads. They are winding, brutal, sometimes lonely paths. There were moments when he could have quit, when the fame felt too heavy, when the awards never came, when he was mocked for what he hadn't won. But he kept showing up. He kept choosing the hard roles, the hard conversations, the hard truths. And because of that, he didn't just build a career. He built a legacy. Imagine Leonardo speaking directly to you right now, in that calm, thoughtful voice of his. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't do things just to be liked. Do the work that matters to you. Take risks, fail, learn, and keep going. His story tells us that it's okay to be underestimated. It's okay to start small. It's okay to be scared. What's not okay is giving up before you've given your all. Whether you're an artist, an entrepreneur, a student, or just someone trying to figure out life, there is something in Leonardo's journey for you. And perhaps that's his greatest gift. Not the movies, not the Oscar, not the fame, but the message his life whispers to every dreamer. You are allowed to want more. You are allowed to rise above where you came from, and you are allowed to rewrite your story. Somewhere out there, another kid with a wild imagination is watching Titanic, or Inception, or The Revenant, and thinking, I want to do that. I want to be that. And if Leonardo's story proves anything, it's that they can. Because the world will always need dreamers, and dreamers, when they refuse to quit, can change the world. Man behind the spotlight. When the cameras stop rolling and the red carpets are empty, Leonardo DiCaprio is not just the superstar the world sees. He's a man who never forgot where he came from. Friends often describe him as humble, playful, even goofy when the pressure of Hollywood isn't on his shoulders. He has a tight circle of friends he's known since the early days, and he still spends time with them, laughing, traveling, and keeping life simple. But there's also a quiet seriousness about Leonardo. He is deeply aware of the power of storytelling, not just in film, but in real life. That's why he produces documentaries, supports young filmmakers, and mentors rising talent. He believes cinema can shape minds, spark change, and even heal. Even in his personal struggles, Leonardo has stayed resilient. Fame brought criticism, his dating life, his privacy, his choices, but he's never let public opinion define him. He's said in interviews, the truth is, you just have to live your own life, and that's exactly what he's done. Living with purpose, choosing projects that challenge him, and using his influence to speak for those who have no voice. His activism goes beyond climate change. He has stood up for indigenous communities, ocean conservation, and social justice. He has sat across tables with presidents, scientists, and activists, using his fame to open doors for real conversations that matter. This is the part of Leonardo's story that many never see. The man who is just as passionate off-screen as he is when delivering a scene. That breaks your heart, and maybe that's what makes him so unique. Leonardo DiCaprio isn't just an actor playing heroes. He is trying, in his own way, to be one. Not perfect, not flawless, but committed. And in a world where celebrity can often feel shallow, Leonardo's choices remind us that you can be in the spotlight and still stand for something real. His journey tells us that greatness isn't just about talent. It's about responsibility. And when you finally reach the top of the mountain, you have two choices: stand there alone, or use that view to light the way for others. Leonardo chose the second, the call to the dreamers. Every life story leaves behind an echo, a message that travels far beyond the person who lived it. Leonardo DiCaprio's echo is loud and clear. You don't have to be born into greatness to become great. He wasn't the richest kid in the room. He wasn't the most connected, and he faced more rejection than most people could handle. But he refused to quit, and that refusal became his superpower. Think about it. What if Leonardo had given up after those first 100 auditions? What if he had listened when they told him to change his name, to be someone else just to fit in? The world would have lost Jack Dawson, Howard Hughes, Don Cobb, Jordan Belfort, and all the characters that inspired millions. More importantly, we would have lost the man who used his fame to stand on the world stage and speak about saving our planet. Leonardo's story is proof that the journey to your dream is not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to test you. It's supposed to break you down so you can rebuild stronger. When you face failure, when the world tells you no, when you feel like you're stuck, that is the moment to keep going. Imagine Leonardo's voice speaking to you right now, as if this documentary wasn't just about him, but about you. You have a choice. You can let the world decide who you are, or you can decide for yourself. You can play it safe, or you can risk everything to follow the fire in your heart. And maybe that's the real lesson here, that greatness is not about awards or fame or recognition. It's about staying true to the vision that only you can see. So, to every dreamer watching this, your story is still being written. Your breakthrough is still out there. Your Titanic, your inception, your moment to stand on that stage and inspire the world. It's waiting, but you have to take the first step, because one day, someone might tell your story. And the question is, will it be a story about someone who gave up, or about someone who refused to stop climbing? The final frame. Picture the screen fading to black, a single spotlight slowly illuminating Leonardo DiCaprio standing center stage. Not Jack Dawson, not Howard Hughes, not Jordan Belfort, just Leonardo. No characters to hide behind, no script to follow, just a man who spent his entire life turning struggle into art, turning pain into purpose, turning dreams into reality. In that quiet moment, he looks at the camera, at you, and almost smiles, as if he knows what you're thinking. Because maybe this entire story wasn't just about him. Maybe it was about everyone who's ever dared to dream bigger than their circumstances. You can almost hear his words, simple but powerful. Everything I have today, the fame, the awards, the respect, it all started with a choice. The choice not to give up, the choice to believe when no one else did. You have that choice too. And as the music swells, we see flashes of his journey. The little boy in East LA running down a cracked sidewalk. The teenager nervously stepping onto his first set. The young man gripping an Oscar with tears in his eyes. The activist standing at the United Nations speaking for the planet. All those versions of Leonardo merge into one. A man who never stopped growing. The narrator's voice cuts in one last time, soft but steady. This is not just the story of Leonardo DiCaprio. This is the story of every dreamer who refuses to stay small. Every fighter who keeps getting up. Every soul who believes there's something more. The world doesn't need more people who settle. It needs more people who dare. The screen fades to black again. Just one final line appears in white letters. Dream like DiCaprio. Fight like DiCaprio. Rise like DiCaprio. And then silence. The kind of silence that makes you sit back, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, what am I waiting for? Because maybe the next great story isn't about Leonardo at all. Maybe it's about you. And maybe, just maybe, your opening scene begins today.